I woke up with a needle in my arm and a monitor beeping beside my head. For a second, I thought I was dreaming. Then I saw the gray curtains, the 4-drip, the nurse adjusting my oxygen. "You fainted," she said gently. "Severe exhaustion. Your blood pressure bottomed out." My mouth was too dry to speak. My body? Empty. Not of pain, of care. Like it had finally given up after holding too much for too long. I blinked at the clock. 12 hours. That's how long I'd been unconscious. 12 hours in the hospital. And not a single call from my family. Not a missed FaceTime from my mom. Not a voicemail from my sister. Not a "how are you?" Just one notification waiting on my phone. "Claire, hey, can you still cover my car payment? It's due today." That's it. I stared at the screen like it had cursed me. I was lying in a hospital bed, wearing a gown I didn't remember putting on, heart rate climbing again from rage. And my sister just wanted money. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Do you need anything?" Just another bill I was expected to cover. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. But not loud. Not like glass. Like rope. Like something that had been stretched and knotted and yanked for years, finally giving out. That was the moment I stopped pretending I had a real family. Because real families show up. Real families don't forget the one who works 2 jobs to keep the lights on, the one who handles emergencies, who helps everyone else breathe while slowly suffocating herself. I used to believe that if I just worked harder, gave more, kept it together, they'd love me back the same way. That belief died somewhere between the hospital stale sheets and the silence of my phone. The nurse came back with a clipboard and asked if I had someone to call for pickup. I laughed. Actually laughed. "No," I said. "Just me." She gave a tight nod. Didn't press. Maybe she'd seen it before. On the ride home, in the back of a cheap rideshare I could barely afford, I stared out the window and made a decision. I wasn't going back. Not just to the apartment I couldn't afford. Not just to the job that drained me. Not just to the role I'd been forced to play my whole life. The fixer, the provider, the emotional punching bag with a nice smile. No, I was done. 3 days later, I made one move. Just one. And that's when my mom called, breathless, panicked, voice shaking. And for once, I didn't answer. My name is Riley Morgan. And from wherever you're watching this video, stay with me. Because the day I collapsed was the day I finally stood up. I didn't grow up in chaos. Not the kind you see in movies. No screaming. No broken dishes. No slammed doors. Just need. All the time. A light bill that was a few days late. A surprise fee on my sister's tuition. A car repair my dad forgot to plan for. A birthday cake no one else could afford. So I paid for it, smiled, and watched them hand it to someone else. When you grow up like that, you learn early. Your pain doesn't fit in the budget. So I became useful. By 15, I was the family calendar. By 17, I was helping with taxes. At 22, I was putting half my paycheck toward my parents' mortgage. Not because they asked, but because they expected. No one clapped. No one asked if I was okay. If I liked my job. If I ever wanted a day off. They assumed I was built for it. All endurance, no needs. And in their eyes, my sister Claire? She was the baby. The delicate one. The emotional one. The one who needed rides and support and endless second chances. She borrowed money from me at least once a month. Sometimes more. Sometimes with interest. Sometimes with guilt. "You know I'd do it for you," she'd say. But we both knew that wasn't true. The last time I tried to say no, she cried. Said I was abandoning her. Said I was being cruel. So I gave in. Again. I always gave in. And every time I needed them, the room got quiet. When I had my first panic attack at work and called my mom, she said, "Have some tea and rest. You're strong." When I had to move apartments last minute and needed help with boxes, Claire said she had a nail appointment. So I moved everything alone. In the rain. Still, I kept showing up. I went to every birthday party. Sent gifts. Checked in. Held my mom's hand when her best friend died, even though I was grieving a friend of my own. They called me selfless. I called it survival. Because the second I dropped the act, I knew what would happen. They'd say I was ungrateful. Cold. Too much. So I gave and gave until my body stopped asking. until I passed out in the middle of a shift from working 12-hour days back to back, until I woke up with no one by my side. That's betrayal, not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind, the kind that hugs you while draining you, that calls you the strong one so they don't have to carry anything. And I carried it all until I couldn't, until I had to choose between being loved and being alive. And for once, I chose me. Coming home from the hospital felt fake, like stepping into someone else's life, a version of me that still belonged to people who never truly claimed me. The apartment was exactly how I left it, a pile of laundry on the chair, 2 unopened bills on the counter, a half-eaten protein bar on the desk. Except now I was seeing it for what it really was. Not a life, a trap. The air was stale, my body still weak. I had bruises on my arm from the fall. I hadn't even showered yet when my phone buzzed again. Claire, I need that car payment. They're calling me nonstop. No, how are you? No, what happened? Just urgency for her. I stared at the message for a long time before typing anything. I was in the hospital. Her reply came 30 seconds later. OMG, why didn't you say anything? Are you okay? Also about the car. I didn't respond. I couldn't, because in that moment it hit me like a wave. Even now, she was only checking in so she could check out with something in her hand. I had just collapsed from exhaustion, from supporting them, from pretending it was okay that no one ever showed up for me. My chest tightened again. I thought, don't you dare go back. Not into the cycle. Not into the excuses. So I did something I'd never done before. I turned off my phone. I sat in silence for hours, drank water, took a shower, ate real food for the first time in days, and I watched the sunlight creep across the floor like it was allowed in now that I was actually present. Later that evening, I logged into my email and saw another notification. Rent due. Automatic payment scheduled for Claire M. Co-signer, Riley Morgan. I stared at it. That's when I knew. I hadn't just been helping them. I had been holding them. They weren't struggling. They were dependent on me. And the second I stopped carrying it all, they'd fall. It should have made me feel guilty. It didn't. It made me feel awake. So I opened my notes app, typed one line. I'm not your backup plan anymore. I copied it, pasted it, sent it to Claire. Her response? Wait, what does that mean? You're just gonna bail? Riley, this isn't like you. Exactly. This wasn't like me. And that's when I realized the old version of me, the one who always said yes, who always gave, who always swallowed her own needs. She didn't survive that hospital bed, but I did. And I was about to make sure they never forgot it. I didn't sleep that night, but not because I was anxious, because I was awake in a way I hadn't been in years. Every part of me, mind, heart, body, was finally synced, finally clear. And it wasn't screaming. It was calm. I opened my laptop at 1:23 a.m., pulled up a folder labeled Someday. Inside were documents I'd been quietly gathering for months. I didn't even know why I started. Maybe deep down I knew the day would come when I'd have to choose between saving myself or continuing to bleed for people who only ever reached for me when they were drowning. There were screenshots of every co-signed account, bank statements, copies of bills I'd been auto-paying without so much as a thank you, rental agreements, medical bills I'd paid off, the loan application I helped my mom complete but ended up funding myself, line after line, debt after debt. And there it was, a spreadsheet I made a year ago. Column A, who it was for. Column B, what I covered. Column C, did they say thank you? Most of column C was blank. That's when I opened 3 new tabs. Tab 1, I removed myself from Claire's car loan. I'd been listed as co-signer, the safety net she leaned on. I submitted a formal removal request, attached my hospital discharge papers as proof of hardship, and hit send. Tab 2, I logged into the payment portal where I'd been covering my parents' overdue electricity bill every other month. I canceled autopay. Tab 3, I sent a change of address form to every financial institution, still linking me to their accounts. Every click? Relief. Not revenge. Relief. I wasn't taking from them. I was giving something to myself. My life back. By 4 a.m., it was done. I sat back in my chair and took the first deep, guiltless breath I could remember. The next day, I bought myself a planner. Not a fancy one, just something with clean pages. And I started writing. Therapy appointment, meal prep schedule, budget for a solo weekend trip, new job search goals, no columns for family emergencies, no blank spaces left for last-minute rescues. 3 days later, the phone started ringing. Mom first, Claire next, then Dad, who usually didn't get involved. I didn't answer. They texted, "Why are payments bouncing? I thought you said you'd help this month." Riley, what's going on? What was going on? They were finally feeling what I had been carrying. And this time, they couldn't hide behind my reliability. They had to look in the mirror without my reflection cushioning the truth. It was their turn to figure it out. And I wasn't going to stop them, because I didn't need to say a word. I'd already made the loudest statement of my life with silence. It started with a text from my mom. "Call me. Urgent." I didn't. The next message came from my dad, the man who rarely texted me unless it was about fixing something. "We need to talk. Rent bounced. What's going on?" Then Claire. Multiple messages. No punctuation. No space to breathe. "Riley, why would you do this? My car is gone. They took it while I was at work. Are you kidding me?" I could see it happening in real time. My move wasn't loud. It wasn't posted. I didn't announce anything. I just stopped, quietly, and without me to cover their chaos, their lives started unraveling. Fast. By day 3, the group chat they never used to include me in was suddenly pinging every 5 minutes. "Mom, we're in trouble. This isn't funny. Dad, we thought you'd at least give us a heads up. Claire, you're literally destroying your own family." That one made me laugh. Because where was that energy when I was in the hospital? Where was family then? I remember staring at the ceiling tiles in the ER, listening to machines beep, waiting for someone to care. And they were posting selfies at brunch. Claire had gone live on Instagram that day, filtered, laughing, talking about manifesting good vibes and needing a spa day. Meanwhile, I was hooked up to fluids, too dizzy to stand, wondering if anyone would notice if I just disappeared. So no, I didn't feel guilty. I felt clear. That clarity carried me through the phone calls I ignored, the voicemails I deleted, the emails with subject lines like, "Need your help just one more time." Because there had already been 1,000 one more times. And now, it was their turn to figure out how to stand without leaning on me. They didn't take it well. My mom eventually left a voicemail that started with a sniffle and turned into a plea. "Riley, I don't understand. You've always been the strong one. We've depended on you, yes, but that's because we trust you. You're part of this family. You don't just leave." I replayed that line, "You don't just leave." But they did. They left when I was curled up in a hospital bed, my body failing under the weight of years of carrying everyone else. They left when I needed a ride, when I needed space, when I needed them to be the strong ones, even just once. And now, I wasn't leaving. I was letting go of the idea that I owed them my body, my energy, my money, just to be loved. Letting go of being the fallback. Because the truth, they never feared losing me. They feared losing access to me. And that panic they felt, that was just the silence catching up. Guilt used to be my leash. I didn't need scolding or threats. Just a disappointed sigh from my mom. A snarky comment from Claire. A long pause from my dad. And I'd fold. Every time, I'd send the money, cover the bill, say yes when my whole body was begging for no. That's what they raised me for, obedience disguised as care. So when I went silent, I knew what would follow. And it came fast, the shift from panic to pity. "I guess you've changed. We always knew you'd pull something like this. You used to be kind." They weren't asking for help anymore. They were trying to shame me into coming back. And the worst part, it almost worked. There was a moment, just one, where I stared at my bank app, hovering over a transfer to Claire's account. She'd sent me a photo of her standing at a bus stop in the rain. No words, just the image. My heart twisted, because part of me still believed it was my job to protect her no matter what. that I was heartless if I didn't. But then I remembered something. It was the same kind of rainy day months ago when I had called her from the ER parking lot. Tears in my throat, drenched, terrified, alone. And she sent a voice memo back that said, "Oof, that sucks. Can you still Venmo me for the phone bill, though?" So I closed the app, didn't send $1. Instead, I opened my calendar and booked a therapy session. My first one in years. The therapist was warm. Didn't ask why I was there. Just waited. And I cracked. Everything came out, the couch sleeping, the medical bills, the silence in that hospital room, the years of pretending I was strong because no one else would be. She listened, then asked, "What makes you think love is something you have to earn?" No one had ever asked me that, and I didn't have an answer. I just sat there, blinking through tears, finally realizing that the pain I carried wasn't just from what they did, it was from what I believed I had to keep doing. So I started rewriting that belief, saying no to things that drained me, not explaining every boundary, letting texts sit unread, unsubscribing, literally and emotionally. And for the first time, I started building connections that felt like warmth, not weight. I joined a women's wellness group, met people who asked how I was doing, and waited for the answer. Started cooking for myself again. Started laughing, real, shoulder-shaking laughs that didn't feel like rebellion. I wasn't healed yet, but I was healing. And that guilt? It started to shrink. Because the truth is, when someone only loves you as long as you're useful, that's not love. That's dependence with a mask on. And I wasn't here to feed that anymore. The day I moved into my new apartment, I didn't post it. No story, no announcement, no curated corner shot with #FreshStart. Just me, a few boxes, and a deep breath in a space that didn't have anyone else's name on the lease. The walls were bare. The fridge was half empty. But for the first time in my adult life, I felt full. The place wasn't fancy. A 4th floor walk-up with a slow drain in the shower and a view of the alley. But it was mine, and no one could call me ungrateful for it. I set up my desk by the window, a little corner for writing and dreaming, and finally building that wellness business I'd put off for years because someone else always needed something first. I made a logo, registered the name, started consulting part-time. Small steps, but they were mine. One afternoon, I found a letter in my mailbox. Handwritten, no return address. I opened it slowly. It was from my mom. Inside was a birthday card, late as always, and a folded sheet of notebook paper. Just one sentence. "Family forgives." That was it. No apology. No ownership. Just the usual coded message. "You're the one who broke this. Now, fix it." I didn't cry. Didn't rage. I laughed. Quietly. Then folded it back up, slid it under a stack of scrap paper, and went on with my day. A few days later, Claire texted, "Hey, hope you're good. I miss you. Can we talk sometime?" She didn't say sorry. She didn't mention the hospital, or the years of guilt, or how she only ever called when her car or her ego broke down. She just wanted back in, without doing the work to deserve it. And I could have responded, could have let her back slowly, could have cracked the door open out of nostalgia or hope. But I didn't, because some people don't want to rebuild. They want to repeat. And I'm not a soft place to land for people who lit the fire behind me. So I muted the thread, deleted the contact, let the silence hold its shape, not as punishment, as proof that I could build something whole without needing to invite the wrecking crew, that I didn't need to be the bigger person to finally feel tall. My life now is quiet, not lonely, quiet. I have a morning routine, a real mattress, a group chat with women who celebrate my wins without asking for a slice. I still think about them sometimes, but not with longing, with distance, the kind that doesn't shrink with time, only expands with truth. The thing about peace is you don't realize how loud your life was until it's gone. Now, my mornings start with silence, not the heavy, uncomfortable kind, the kind that breathes, a kettle hissing softly, the sun sliding across my living room floor, a to-do list with my name at the top, not someone else's. I used to live in emergency mode, always alert, always preparing to catch someone else's fall, always bracing for the next guilt trip, dressed up as a favor. Now, I don't flinch when my phone buzzes, because the only people calling me now call because they want to know how I am, not what I can do for them. I finished my first coaching course last week, created a program for women like me, the overgivers, the strong ones, the invisible backbones of broken families. It's called Boundaries and Belonging. And when I hosted my first session, I said this to a room full of tired, beautiful strangers. You are not selfish for choosing peace. You are not cruel for saying no. You are not cold. You're just finally free. That line stuck. One woman cried. Another wrote it down. And afterward, I stood alone in my little apartment, barefoot, tea in hand, and whispered it to myself. You're not cold. You're free. Because I needed to hear it, too. Sometimes people confuse silence with distance. They think if you're not yelling, you're fine. If you don't slam the door, you'll never leave. But the most powerful exits are the ones you make with a full heart and a steady breath. No revenge. No war. Just walking away and never looking back. I didn't cut them off. I just stopped showing up for people who wouldn't sit next to me in a hospital room. And if that makes me the villain in their story, fine. I'll be the villain with a business, a bed I sleep well in, and a peace they never earned the right to borrow. This chapter ends with no bang. Just a quiet kitchen, a candle burning low, and the knowledge that I didn't lose a family. I left a trap, and I never want it back.